Two genres which appear in my sequence are mystery and thriller. Mysteries and thrillers both share conventions of types of sound. In both instances, we normally hear a higher pitch of music as something dangerous is about to happen. Through camera, extreme close-ups build tension, especially between a victim and a perpetrator. Through the use of mise-en-scène, props and costumes can be similar, especially as props may contain weapons, and villains can be depicted as wearing dark clothes. Through lighting, both genres typically share low lighting, as this can hide identities of shady characters and show shadows, which builds tension. The mystery genre normally includes themes of good versus bad and crime versus justice, while the thriller genre normally includes themes of power play, brave versus vulnerable, perpetrator versus victim. The films I have chosen to compare to my sequence are Misery and Psycho. Both classify as mysteries and thrillers and share significant similarities to my sequence. Misery and my sequence, The Ripple Effect, share many similarities, most notably through the use of camera, lighting, mise-en-scène and editing. In this sequence, the camera angles are mostly extreme close-ups. This is common in both thrillers and mysteries, as they help identify characters and give hints to whether they are good or bad. The lighting in both sequences is mostly natural, which doesn't conform to the low lighting in thrillers. Through mise-en-scène, similarities which can be noted between the two sequences are mainly through props, such as the cigarettes, the setting, and the typewriter, undoubtedly a staple prop in both sequences. Also to be noted is the character, an old white male, most likely an author, and seems to be rather successful. This can especially be noted in Misery, as an expensive bottle of champagne is visible in one of the shots. The setting takes place in the living room of their homes, and the decor, props, and costume give some indication of the era. This can be similar to the mystery genre, as mysteries can sometimes be set in the past. The editing in both sequences shows long cut shots to begin with, but they will no doubt pick up speed as tension builds, common to both the mystery and the thriller genre. Differences, which can be seen between the sequences, are that in my sequence, the author is just beginning his book, whereas in Misery, he is just finishing it. Also, the camera angles in Misery are very symmetrical, whereas in my sequence, we use many different types of angles and rarely use symmetrical ones. Psycho and The Ripple Effect share qualities in many ways when considering genre conventions. The infamous shower scene in Hitchcock's Psycho has numerous similarities to the murder scene in The Ripple Effect. Through the use of camera, we see extreme close-up shots throughout the murder sequence. The use of extreme close-ups also helps to build tension before the actual crime has taken place. But other shots also build tension, such as the shadow of the killer in Psycho, who can be seen through a wide shot behind the victim through the transparent curtain, whereas in a ripple effect we see close-ups of the perpetrator's footsteps following the victim. In both sequences, the real identity of the killer is never revealed. This is achieved in Psycho by lighting, as the killer's face is darker, never revealing their identity, and in the ripple effect by extreme close-ups, so we never see his whole face at once. In both sequences, we see close-ups of the killer's hands as they use similar methods to kill their victims. The death of the victims is also similar. Both women slump to the floor, and close-ups of the blood can be seen trickling away. However, in the Psycho sequence, there is significantly less blood. The setting in both sequences is undeniably different. However, both provide a location where the character is extremely vulnerable. This is a typical convention for the thriller/horror genre, as it depicts a beautiful, vulnerable young woman in danger. Both sequences show a young, blonde woman. They both have on typical makeup, brow pencil, and long eyelashes, and in the ripple effect, our character has red lipstick, and both have their hair nicely done. Psycho was made in 1960 and our sequence was set in the 1950s. We purposely created a typical view of a woman at this time as we hoped it would give the audience hints about the era. Our sequence undeniably conforms to typical representation. The lighting in both sequences is artificial, which adds an unnatural aspect to the sequence. The ripple effect shows blood at the beginning, which foreshadows the outcome of the sequence. The location and circumstances in Psycho also adds an element of foreshadowing, as they help arouse mystery. The prop which has the most power is the weapon choice, a knife in both instances. Through the use of editing, we see typical thriller conventions as the quick cuts builds tension and mystery as the killer's identity is not revealed. Psycho is also shot in black and white, a decision we heavily considered for our sequence as it gave hints to the era. Our sequence shows a typical 1950s woman who is endangered and would most likely need a man to save her. She is also murdered by a man who is much bigger than her, which would give her little chance to survive. This vulnerability is especially shown through high and low camera angles, which makes the victim appear much weaker and smaller than she actually is.